Resume writing tips for developers and engineers by a developer/engineer. Let me preface this by saying that I'm not a HR or a hiring manager or a recruiter and haven't really hired anyone in development or engineering position. But as a developer and as an engineer, I have applied to a bunch of positions and have received a fair amount of rejection as well as job opportunities from companies all across the world. I have some experience in writing my resume, so a couple of friends have been reaching out to me asking for my review and feedback on their resume, and I found some common patterns of mistakes or don'ts that they were following that I thought I would make a video and emphasize it more broadly, so for a broader set of audience. So I'll be starting out general do's and don'ts of resume writing and then slowly narrow it down to a resume that is suitable for a development or engineering position in software industry. And these are just my recommendations, so please take it with a bit of a grain of salt. So let's start with the difference between a CV and a resume, because sometimes companies do ask you for your CV, which is a different, more elaborate version of a resume, and that is beyond the scope of today's video. And generally, length of a resume should be a one-pager, and in some cases where you have a decent amount of experiences, you can expand it to a two-pager resume. But my suggestion would be to, if you are starting it out, just keep it one-pager and go from there on. I'm at a position where I have a fair amount of professional experiences, so my resume is of two-pager, but I think that's okay for my case. And if you're starting it out, one-pager should be fine. And the second thing is, if you are a God-fearing person or simply believe in a higher power, or if you are a nice human being, please do not use Times New Roman. It's so 2000. There are much nicer fonts out there, much more options to edit your documents. For example, Google Docs, which is what I use to edit my resumes, and there are a bunch of really nice fonts. Right now, I'm using Playfair Display. There are a bunch of other fonts such as Helvetica, Gaumont, Source, Sans Pro, Baskerville. Feel free to use any of these good-looking fonts other than Times New Roman. Don't use Papyrus or any of those very fancy-looking fonts. And pardon the sound that is coming out from there. There's nothing that I can do about that. The third thing is, mention your name, your title, and handful of your skill set up top in order to pass the 6-second test. I'm not sure if that 6-second rule is widespread out there, but there's a saying that a HR or a recruiter would only look at your resume for 6 seconds and decide whether or not to proceed further with your resume or not. In order to pass that, what I do is I mention my name, my title, and my handful of skill sets up top. The very first three things will be those on my resume on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, it will be my contact information, my email address, my LinkedIn, and my website. Having a personal website is a nice touch. You can use GitHub Pages if you don't know how to make a personal website for free, but still, that's a nice touch. If you don't have a personal website, your phone, email, and LinkedIn should still be fine. But I would still recommend to have a personal website. After that, I add a summary. What I see is most people writing an objective saying they are looking for a job in so-and-so position where they can grow, they can evolve, they can contribute, a lot of abstract things and their objectives. My recommendation is, instead of writing your abstract objectives, write down your factual summaries. In my case, let me give you an example. I say I'm a JavaScript engineer with over 5.5 years of professional experience in X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying I'm looking for a job. When you send in a resume, it should be implied implicitly that you're looking for a job. Try to expand on that. Don't write you want to grow, you are passionate. Those are abstract things to say, and that should be implied implicitly. You should be passionate, and it should reflect upon your work, your resume. It should be polished, and it should be in such a way that you should not have to say a few things explicitly. Also, don't add your picture unless it is specifically asked by the company, which is very rare in my experience. So no pictures, just your name, title, and handful of your best skills up top. I hope that crosses the 6-second rule for my resume. Then we move on to sections. So that is the head of your resume. Then you have the body of your resume. And it should primarily comprise of your work experiences, your education, your skill sets, your hobby projects or your personal projects if you want to highlight that, and some interest and some bottom line things at the end that you might want to mention depending upon your case. And we'll go on them one after another. So now this is where we are entering into the realm of software development. So I have a ton of work professional experiences, so I would mention that first instead of my education or my personal projects or my skill sets. I have mentioned a handful of skill sets already up top, and I have 5 years of experience, nearly 6 years now, and I now focus on my projects. And while talking about projects, I do talk about the positions that I was in and at what company I was involved and for how long I was involved in that company, those kind of details. And I avoid using paragraph, and that is what I recommend to everyone, because reading paragraph is a little bit of cognitively challenging task for HRs. And again, the goal of the resume should be passing down the information about your skill sets and your work to the other person, to the HR, and you want to make it easier for them to find the skill set in your resume that is suitable for the job, the position that they want to fill. So I have written a remote software engineer for so and so company from so and so dates. What I did is I architected, this is a confusing word, I architected a Next.js application for lightweight and performant landing site. Now, when I say lightweight and performant landing site, that is a bit of an abstract description, and you should avoid simply keeping abstract things in resumes. Back it up with a fact. And at the end of that point, I mentioned LH greater than 90, which is a term. And I hope my recruiter or the person who is reviewing my resume understand that what that means. LH means lighthouse score, which is greater than 90. So that is sort of an industry standard tool to measure how fast the website is. So I'm using a metric to say, hey, I made a website over here that is fast, and you can verify that using this metric. So I hope that gives you an understanding that of how to present the impact of your project with a factual information that can be verified on their end as well. Yes, one thing that is missing in this particular resume or my resume is a link to that particular website, which I need to add, but I have added the company's link where I worked. Always, whenever possible, link your application or link your projects with external links to external sites that can be backed up. Since we'll be sending out digital resumes in PDF format, the links will be preserved. And so I would recommend putting links wherever possible, even in your education, even in your hobby projects, even in your professional projects. And then there is other things that I talk mostly on the impact side of the project, like what impact did it make to the client or to the users that they were using the application. And I'm avoiding talking about the technology stacks because that will happen automatically during the interviews. They will assess your technical skills in the interview. So right now I want to get into their head saying, hey, I am an impactful developer. I understand projects. I understand what impacts that they have on to their users and to their clients. So I keep that into my mind while developing applications. I'm not just a nerd who uses so-and-so technology and call it a day. So I don't do that. I assess impact and work like that. So that is my style or my approach. And more experiences you have, I think it's necessary for you to develop your way of working, your style of working. Maybe sometimes your way of working will not fall in line with the company that they are hiring, which is fine. You don't want to work with those companies or that kind of projects anyways. So a way to signify your preference through your resume is also a good way. But if you're starting out, avoid paragraphs, use bullet points, and go on. Yeah. The thing is, when I saw a couple of my friends' resume, they had a bunch of experiences all mashed into one. Whereas if you see my resume, you'll only see my web development experiences. I do have some photography project-related experiences, some documentary project-related experiences, some experiences in audio production, some lighting skills. None of those skills are mentioned in my resume. And the reason is I want to portray a picture of a web developer to the person, whoever is reading this resume. In the similar way, if you are looking for, say, a job in Android application development as an Android developer, highlight all your skill sets that focuses on that particular field. Do not say you are a supervisor of some other thing that you did in 2010. That does not make sense, I guess, in my opinion. But if you don't have anything really to mention, then maybe you can mention. But my suggestion is to bringing all the skill set or project or all your experience that points towards saying that, okay, you are an Android developer, or okay, you are a backend developer. You did this project, this is related to that, or just talk about a couple of projects that you did and cut the unnecessary skill sets, or maybe add them in a section called other experiences or other achievements that you did that might be closely related to the position that you're applying. In one case of one of my friends, I saw he had a little bit of web development experiences, a little bit of mobile application development experiences, and a little bit of machine learning related experiences. And that's a broad category of experiences. And if let's say if I'm hiring for my team in web development position, I would need to know how good of his skills are in web. I would not be impressed much by his mobile development experiences, although it's I don't know, nice to have a person who knows more than just web, but I would need him to do web development in a job. So if that person would portray himself as a web developer with additional experiences on machine learning, on mobile development, yes. But if he says, okay, I know this, I know all of this, I'll be like, okay, so what do you really know? Do you see? I hope you get this picture cleared out, because that is more important, to portray yourself as a certain kind of a person. Or specifically, say if the position is specifically asking for a front end developer, you need to push all your skill sets or highlight all your skill sets or your experiences in that direction, saying, okay, you have developed web application or for school project or for college project, and you have worked on this kind of stack, and the project is live at this place. And even if you are coming from a different stack, you can bring in the experiences, such as you can bring in the concepts of programming, such as OOPS or functional programming or solid principles, or the concept of UI UX design, your API design, your API consumption patterns, or how you work in teams, how you follow agile practices or Kanban, and how you use version control systems. All those skill sets can be transferred to any of the stack, whether you're working on front end or mobile or back end or even DevOps. I think you can transfer all these skill sets. So if you are trying to switch stack, you might want to highlight your skill set in such a way that you can be a good fit for the position that you're applying to. Sorry, the next section is education. I've added my recent course, or the title of the degree that I received, the college name, address, the year of graduation, and my GPA points. It's good to mention all those things over there. Nothing fancy. And if you did really something impactful in that course, or say did some projects that were like, I don't know, really good, really great, you can expand on that over here, just like how you would expand on your professional projects. Then moving on, you have a next section of skill set. Remember how I mentioned a handful of skill sets way up top on the head of the resume, and now over here in the section I expand upon all sorts of skill set that I have that I use on a regular basis. Now this is the place where developers can lie about their experiences and can just add a bunch of redundant stuff. For example, I did learn C, C++, and Java in my college, but I haven't added them over here. When I was a fresher, I did add C, C++, Java, JavaScript, all those sorts of things. But right now, I don't want to be hired in a position where I need to use C, C++, or Java. I know a little bit of those, but I'm not super confident in those languages. I cannot build big softwares or enterprise level applications using those languages, so I will avoid mentioning those kind of things which I'm not super confident about at all, or some sort of thing that I haven't used in a long time. For example, there are a couple of stacks, if I don't use for another year or two, I might have to remove those down because I will not remember it. Say in an interview, if they ask about, okay, what do you think about the latest version of Redux Thunk and these changes that they made, I'll be like, I haven't used that in 2 years, so I don't know much about it. And that is something that you would not want to say in your during an interview. But if you do that, because sometimes that does happen, and in fact it has happened to me twice, where I added something in the resume which was sort of outdated and I haven't really used in a while, and the interviewer did ask me about, okay, tell me something about this, or how would you use this in a certain situation, and I did not hesitate, and I simply said, hey, I did add this one, but I think I should have removed this one because I haven't used this in a while. I used this on this kind of project to achieve this kind of thing, but haven't really used it lately. I think in the latest version they did that. So be honest about your application. If you did a mistake, it's never too late to correct yourself, and don't bullshit your interviewer, because they will know you. They have much more years of experience under their belt. So if you are bullshitting someone, it won't take them long to figure out that you are bullshitting. So instead, gain a leverage by winning their trust, by showing some humility, by showing your side where you do accept your mistakes, whether it's a mistake on your resume or whether it's something that they ask you during the interview that you did not know about. So keep it honest, keep it to the point. White lies, I'm not sure if this video is capable enough to guide you about the moralistic choices that you have to make in life, but it's up to you to how you will use a white lie if it's helpful in your scenario, and I won't be covering that. So skill sets should officially be the end of your typical resume, but there are a few things that I would like to still add in my resume. Since I am a non-native speaker of English language, I do need to emphasize or say that, hey, I'm not a native speaker of English language because I am a Nepali person. My mother tongue is Nepali, and since I'll be working with mostly foreign clients, I do need to mention it in my resume saying, but I do have a decent amount of score in English. Here is a test that I took in 2021. This is the score. It's okay if you don't have any sort of a test, but do mention it if you are a non-native speaker of English language. That just helps to understand linguistic attributes of someone. And second last section is pursuits or interests or hobbies. I just added that just to keep things light. Say someone invested their decent amount of time to know or go through my application to the end. I do want that person to know more about me, because if someone is serious about hiring me and they liked all my skill sets and my professional experiences, they do want to get a picture about what kind of a person I am. So I just added a few things about, say, hey, I'm into reading philosophy, understanding human cognition, thinking, stoicism, entrepreneurship, and I do enjoy trekking, playing instruments, and I enjoy swimming, photography, things like that. So those are there so that we can have further conversation about what it's like working with me or work. So I just added that at the end. You can keep it short. You may remove it, but I would still suggest you to add some of your interests and hobbies. Keep it short, keep it to the point. And at the end, there is places where I'm active online: Twitter, GitHub, YouTube, Stack Overflow. Initially, I used to add those things up top, but if someone is just reviewing my resume for 6 seconds, they won't be messaging me on Twitter or GitHub, YouTube, or Stack Overflow anyways. So those are just a few things that I would typically mention at the end. I know this was a little bit all over the place, but I hope this helps to anyone who is working on their resume. Drop your favorite resume tip if I miss, or if you like any one of the tip that you did not know before, let me know. And if you want me to review your resume, book a session with the link on the description. And thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video, and good luck with your job hunt.